So very good afternoon and welcome to all the connected participants for this webinar on clinical cases in large animal practice, a fast track discussion part 2, which is especially on the production disease. And this webinar is organized by Dr. G.C. Negi College of Veterinary Animal Sciences, Chaudhary Shravan Kumar, Himachal Pradesh Krishi Vishwavidyalaya, Palampur, in collaboration with the Caras Laboratories Private Limited, a Karnal-based marketing house. Dr. Subramaniam Shivaraman is a renowned clinician with expertise on management of infections in farm animals. He is our eminent speaker for today's webinar. On behalf of College of Veterinary Animal Sciences, it's my privilege to welcome Professor Mandeep Sharma, Dean of this college, in the inaugural function of this webinar. But just now, we have received a message from Dean Sir that he has some other important assignments and he's not able to join this inaugural session. However, we have received a compliment from Dean Sir for the successful organization of this webinar. We are sincerely thankful to you, sir, that you have allowed and permitted us to organize this webinar for undergraduate and postgraduate students, faculty, and veterinarians during COVID-19 lockdown period. We all are privileged to have Dr. Shivaraman with us today, and we are thankful to him that despite his busy schedule, he has humbly accepted our request to deliver this important talk. We once again welcome Dr. Shivaraman, sir, and the screen is now yours, sir. I request all the participants, if they have any questions, you can put your question in question answer chat box of the screen, and sir will be happy to answer your questions after the end of this session. Sir, so screen is now yours and you are requested to please start your presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Is it audible, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
yeah, please.
So my screen is available?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So respected Dean of Dr. G.C. Negi College of Veterinary Animal Sciences, Palampur, and beloved Dr. Pradeep Sharma, Faculty of Medicine, COVS, Palampur, and the Caras Laboratories, who are offering the platform for the use of the students and the practitioners of this session. So I thank everyone, and I welcome all the students of College of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Palampur, who are doing the final year at present, and they are undergoing the metabolic diseases courses. So as the Pradeep Sharma sir asked me regarding the case discussion regarding the production diseases, it will be very much useful for the final year students. I mean, those who are attending 4 to 1, and also for the practitioners of Himachal Pradesh and Haryana who are doing the large animal practice. It will be very much useful for them. So I welcome all the students and also the practitioners of Himachal Pradesh and Haryana and other parts of the country. And it will be more useful for your academic and also the practical purpose. And in this session, as requested by Pradeep Sharma ji and also the course teachers. So I modulated according to the need of the students and the practitioners, the production diseases regarding the recombinant cows. So production diseases, there are so many things. I will enlist you. Already you might have attended some other classes. In the last webinar organized by Dr. G.C. Negi College of Veterinary Animal Sciences, Palampur, in collaboration with the Caras Laboratories, we have discussed some cases regarding acidosis, and some 10 to 11 cases we have discussed, from pre-gas bloat to frothy bloat to acidosis and foreign body syndrome and differential diagnosis of swelling of the edema of the face, snake bite. Like that, so many cases we have discussed in the last session. And here we will concentrate regarding the production diseases alone. So I hope this will be very much useful for your academic purpose and also the practical purpose. So as the students and also a practitioner, I used to always say the learning is a continuous process. We have to be an open mind to receive things from our senior persons, faculties, teachers, and practitioners, so that we can update our knowledge daily. So once, as you want to be a successful clinician, you should be in a learning process that should be a continuous learning process. Then only will be a updating our clinical knowledge continuously. So I request our students, even after graduation, you have to be in contact with your faculties, your teachers, and your seniors, and you update your knowledge then and there so that you can become a successful practitioner in your life. So regarding the production disease, there are so many diseases there. As you know, the hypocalcemia, hypophosphatemia, and hypokalemia is there, ketosis is there, hypomagnesemia, Downer cow syndrome, fatty liver syndrome, low milk fat syndrome. All these things related to production diseases are there. Here we concentrate regarding the production diseases regarding to the recumbent cows. So I'm not going directly to the treatment or management of recumbent cows, because as a learner, whenever you are going and attending a case of as a fresh graduate or a student or just recently started the practice, the practitioners, those who are going and attending a Downer cow case means you will be getting a lot of confusion. What are all the drugs we have to use, how to treat it, how to manage it, like that you will be getting confused. So this is our Downer cow unit. This is our ward in our hospital in Namakkal. There we have at a time we will be treating more than 10 to 15 cases at a time, all various type of Downer cows. They will be getting admitted. They will get admitted in the ward, and we'll do all the blood profiles and the diagnosis, and we'll manage it, and we'll tell the prognosis, and whatever maybe they will be admitted and treatable. So you can notice all these Downer cows are put in the sand pit. So sand pit is the important point in the management of Downer cow. So you should not treat the Downer cow in a concrete floor. So it will be a failure one. So whenever a cow is recommend for more than 6 hours, you have to immediately shift it to the sand pit. Otherwise, the other complications will occur. What are the other complications? Because of the recumbency, prolonged recumbency, peripheral nervous injury will come. So that it will complicate the case. Even after we are simple, it may be a simple case of hypocalcemia. After treating with the calcium, the animal become normal, but it cannot able to get up. But without our knowledge, we will be treating again and again with the calcium. The animal won't get up because of peripheral nervous injury. So just by seeing the clinical signs, we can identify. I will tell you how to identify in the coming slides. And this sand pit is very, very important for the management of recumbent cows. Any cow which is recumbent for more than 6 hours, it should be immediately shifted to the sand pit so that your treatment or management, whatever will be fruitful. Otherwise, it will be a failure. So experienced veterinarians, after becoming an expert in the clinical examination, it will take hardly around 5 to 10 minutes to completely examine a Downer cow and to narrow down the diagnosis and be diagnosed within 5 to 10 minutes. That's okay. The other part is that only treatment and management. That will take a long time depending upon the individual cases. I will explain in the coming slides how to approach it and how to approach regarding the metabolic. I'm taking you by step. As a learner, I'm taking you step by step how to treat a hypocalcemia case. If not recovering from hypocalcemia, what are all the things you have to keep it in mind? Then what are all the other causes of recumbency? So see, when I was an undergraduate student and after finishing my postgraduate also, when I was doing my practice, I don't know about the other complications of hypophosphatemia or hypokalemia and all. So I simply started treating with calcium alone. After the learning process only, after learning a lot only, then we came that hypophosphatemia is also plays an important role in treating the recumbent cows. Hypokalemia is also an important one. So nowadays, because of the continuous enlightenment of webinar and other cases, I have been noticing many number of field veterinarians, they have started using treatment of hypokalemia. That is very happy to see the changes in the field. Okay. So now you are called upon to attend a case of recumbent cow like this. So assume it, your farmer has called you to attend a case. So he told, he's telling you, sir, the animal is lying down since morning, is not getting up, and you are going to see that case. So as a learner, what you will be thinking in mind? So just by seeing the case, you will be thinking it is a recumbent cow, it is a Downer cow. We don't know except anything, what happened, what is it. Then you have to ask the history to the owner when it calved. So mostly hypocalcemia and all, it occurs recently calved animal within 36 to 72 hours within the calving time, or within few days or few weeks of calving. That will be hypocalcemia will be playing a major role around calving parturition. So most of us will be concentrating in the first line of treatment as a calcium. So you'll be going and giving calcium, and the animal will, if it is a hypocalcemia case, the animal will respond immediately and it will get up. Even after giving calcium, so the animal is not responding to calcium. What happened? It is a simple logic. It is not a case of hypercalcemia that you have to take. After giving 1 bottle of calcium, and if the animal is not responded to your calcium therapy, and if it is not getting up, means that is not a case of hypercalcemia. So you have to review your diagnosis. You have to reevaluate your diagnosis. It may be a acidosis case. It may be a peritonitis case. So you have to think in that, and you have to go for the clinical examination. That's why I'm telling. Why I'm telling, many of this again will go for again 1 dose of calcium, again 1 dose of calcium the next visit. Like that, we'll be going on giving only calcium. Calcium is the only option. I'm telling, it's not like that. Once you giving calcium, and if it is not responded to calcium, it is not a case of hypercalcemia. So you have to reevaluate your diagnosis. So I will tell you how to enlighten and how to go on step by step. Is passed. So in hypocalcemia and all, there won't be any dung material. It will be retained in the rectum itself. The temperature will be subnormal in nature. The head will be turned towards the flank region. Okay. And suppose the animal is having respiratory distress and the dung is void a little quantity, and the animal is not comatose, the animal is in the eyes are open. The normal mental status is normal to dull and depressed, but the quantity of the dung is very much reduced. Respiration is shallow. You think about peritonitis. If there is any fluid splashing sound, diarrhea is there, you think about acidosis. Like that, you have to do the clinical examination. Then you have to go for the treatment of the recommended course. So here, see this picture, how this animal is. So for a learner, everyone by seeing this picture, they will be saying this is a downer cow. But after experience in the clinical examination, experienced clinician, just by seeing the posture of the animal, we can able to say this is a clear case of musculoskeletal disorder. How we can say, see, the animal is in the sternal recumbency. As you know, sternal recumbency means the sternum will be placed in the ground. Lateral recumbency means the animal will be lying at the lateral, means the lateral aspect. All the 4 limbs will be like as if it is sleeping, like that, lateral recumbency. So this is a sternal recumbency. Here, see the right hind limb. The right hind limb is abducted. Abducted means it is away from the body. It is keeping the right hind limb away from the body. So that itself, the animal itself is trying to tell us the clinical signs. See, I am suffering from this problem. I am having pain here. So I am keeping my limb like this. So this is the clear case of musculoskeletal involvement. So there is some complication or problem in this stifle region or in this limb. You have to examine this right hind limb. That is the problem. So when you are called upon to attend this type of downer cow or recommended cow, you need not go for calcium because the animal is normal, alert. When you try to make it up, it will try to get up. Even though if you give calcium, the animal is not getting up. So number 2, second point, what you have to do, you have to concentrate in the physical examination of this hind limb. So I will tell you how to examine the hind limb. So this, by seeing the posture itself, we can able to identify what type of clinical condition is that, so that we can treat it very easily. See here, the animal, the same sternal recumbency, but the animal is trying to get up, but it is not getting. So in this case, there is no need of giving calcium and all. Already treated with the calcium, but not getting up means you have to reevaluate and you have to concentrate on the musculoskeletal involvement. What is the problem? Any problem in the hind limb? Any neurological problem or musculoskeletal problem? Any injury in the stifle, like that, you have to concentrate. So, but just by seeing the posture, first when you approach the animal, just by seeing the posture, by observation, you keep it in your mind, then go for the clinical examination. In the clinical examination, you will be seeing the temperature, heart rate, mucous membrane, everything. So that will give you the clue. So the temperature subnormal and all, you will be thinking about hypocalcemia in case of recommended dose. Temperature subnormal, immediately see the mucous membrane. If it is pale or blanched, it is a case of delayed case of blood protozoan disease. That you have to keep it in mind. Subnormal temperature, blanched mucous membrane. Subnormal temperature, normal mucous membrane, you think about these things, hypocalcemia and other things. So mucous membrane is congested, subnormal temperature or normal temperature. It could be a case of sepsis. So like that, you have to evaluate the cases, then you go for the clinical examination. Just I'm outlining, I'm not getting in deep. It's very simple. All the things are very, very simple. Just you follow me by the slides one by one, so that by end of this session, you will feel very easy to diagnose how to identify hypocalcemia, how to identify hypophosphatemia, how to identify hypokalemia. These three things are over. That's all. After these things, if the animal is not getting up, you'll be concentrating on separate category of musculoskeletal involvement. It's very easy to diagnose. So this animal, now we can able to identify the posture very clearly. So when you are called upon to attend this type of cases, will you go for calcium as a primary treatment? No, because the animal is eating, feeding, everything normal, rumination normal, dung voided normal, urine normal, everything is normal. Only the thing complaint, the animal is not getting up. So will you go for calcium? Even though if you give calcium, the animal will try to get up, but it cannot able to get up. So what is the problem? As in the previous slide, I already told, see the right hind limb, it is abducted, it is away from the body. So it clearly indicates the affection is in the right hind limb. So you palpate the stifle joint and hip joint and what are the things in problem. Then accordingly you treat it or manage. Very simple logic. Okay. So by observation, you can narrow down your area of diagnosis very easy. So regarding the production diseases, the common, I mean the important things we have to understand, the basic is the hypercalcemia, hypophosphatemia, postprandial hemoglobinuria. I mean both are interrelated, hypophosphatemia and postprandial hemoglobinuria. Okay, both are same. And hypokalemia. Hypokalemia means low serum potassium level. Hypophosphatemia means low serum phosphorus level. Hypocalcemia, low calcium level in the blood. These are all the conditions, so that we can see one by one. Regarding the hypocalcemia, the milk fever, the normal concentration of calcium is around 9 to 12 milligram per deciliter. The blood normal concentration of calcium is 9 to 12 milligram per deciliter. And you just constant plasma concentration of calcium are easily maintained during the non-lactation period, because during the lactation period, the calcium, more and more calcium is required during the lactation. So in late lactation, 10 gram, around 10 gram of calcium is needed for an animal daily in the late gestation. That you have to keep it in mind. So that much important of the calcium. So the loss of plasma calcium to the milk takes place during the lactation period. So what will happen? Animals late lactation, only 10 gram is essential. Immediately after calving, it needs more calcium according to the lactation, according to the liters of the milk. It is delivery. That calcium is needed. So it is not due to calcium deficiency. The animal goes for recombination. Most of the animals, they adapt according to the onset of the lactation. Some animals which cannot able to adapt to the lactation, the need of the calcium, they go as a downers. I mean the recommend for hypocalcemia. So you keep it in mind. It's a frequently asked question all the examination. 2 gram of calcium is drained out in 1 kg of milk. Okay, 2 gram of calcium is drained out in 1 kg of milk, and 2.3 gram of calcium in 1 kg of colostrum. Okay, so you imagine, you calculate. For example, a case of a cow which is draining out 10 kg of milk means how much calcium it is required. It is draining out 23 gram of calcium is required. Okay, this is the transition period is very, very important. What is the transition period? The animal is in the late gestation. They are yet to calving. So now the animal is in the late gestation. For example, now about to 4 o'clock, the animal is in the parturition process. By 5 o'clock, it delivered. By 7 o'clock, it is in the postpartum period. I mean the periparturient or postpartum period. So within 6 hours, within 2 to 3 hours or 6 hours, the entire calcium requirement is changed from the normal 10 gram of calcium here before calving to, according to the quantity of the colostrum, it requires more calcium. I hope you understand the point. So how the animal immediately mobilizes the calcium? It mobilizes from the body. So normally the calcium is getting into the blood pool, that is the calcium is required, it is absorbed, reabsorbed from the bone and the intestines and under the influence of vitamin D. So that you have to keep it in mind. So from the bone, reabsorption occurs and it is coming to the calcium pool. And from the intestine, it is getting absorbed and it is coming to the blood pool, plasma pool. And it is after parturition mean in the milk or before parathyroid hormone will secrete and it will enhance the reabsorption of calcium from the bone and the intestines. Once the calcium level reaches the normal, so naturally calcitonin will be secreted and it will stop reabsorption of the calcium from the bone and the intestines. This is the homeostasis mechanism. Okay, under the influence of vitamin D, which is secreted from the 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol is the active metabolite of vitamin D. So here we understand the calcium is not due to the deficiency, it is in the derangement of the homeostasis. Suddenly it is not able to make up the requirement, that's all. So naturally the animal goes recumbency because of low calcium level. So the calcium required in the late gestation is around 10 to 20 grams per day. So the incidence of age as age increases, the incidence also increases because of the reduction in the osteoblast and osteoclast. And regarding the other things, the time of occurrence, most of the hypocalcemia cases, it occurs around the periparturient period, immediately after calving or just prior to calving or just within 48 to 72 hours after the calving period, the more incidents are being noticed. Okay. The other cases also that it may occur at any time. The predisposing causes are other things are so many things are there, like fatigue, excitement, even during the eastern period also. Some hypocalcemic signs occurs, the animal may go for recumbency, and even in some plant poisoning also, oxalate poisoning also, the calcium will availability will be reduced, the animal goes for recumbency. When we give supplement the calcium, the animal become normal. And also sometimes stress-induced hypocalcemia also being noticed. When you give aminoglycosides intravenously rapidly, that also will lead to hypocalcemic signs. And oral dose of zinc oxide around 40 milligram per kg body weight daily, that also will lead to signs of hypocalcemia. But mostly in the clinical cases, we'll be coming across around the parturition and some cases during the time of the eastrum and all. And some of the most of the cases during this stress induced also we will be coming across. That after going for their practice. Okay, when you are going for the practice, various type of cases you will be noticing. That time you will be able to know all these things. The risk factors involved. What are all the risk factors involved in the hypocalcemia? I mean the milk fever is a dietary calcium, increased dietary calcium during the last trimester of pregnancy. You should not give more calcium, more than 100 grams of calcium will be a predisposing factor for milk fever. And also increase in the dietary potassium level. Dietary potassium level also is a risk factor for hypocalcemia. And the reduced dietary magnesium level, that is also a predisposing factor for hypocalcemia. And feeding more than 100 grams of calcium per day during the dry period or last trimester of pregnancy is the risk factor. So many of the farmers, they used to give the mineral mixture or pure calcium alone. Calcium alone they used to give during the last trimester of pregnancy. That should not be done. So feeding more than 100 grams of calcium during the last trimester of pregnancy will be a predisposing risk factor for milk fever. And also high potassium in the ration during the late gestation. And also regarding the phosphorus, you should not give more than 80 grams per day. That we have to keep it in mind and you have to tell the farmers. And regarding the clinical signs, as a student, we have to keep it in mind the various stages of clinical signs of milk fever. The farmers, they will inform us in the earliest sign itself, that we have to understand it in the earliest signs. What are the earliest signs of milk fever? The animal will be stand still. The animal in the earliest part of milk fever will be stand still, means it will be standing as it is in the cattle shed or wherever it is there, and they're reluctant to move. And also sometimes the owner will be noticed the animal calved yesterday, but till now it is not past the tongue. They used to tell the history. Till now it does not. That is earliest history, earliest sign the farmer will be noticing, and he will be telling the animal is not passing the tongue. And sometimes the animal may be protruding the tongue like this, frequent protrusion of the tongue and showing the teeth. And the temperature, respiration, and everything will be normal. All vital signs will be normal. And when you make the animal walk, sometimes suddenly it will fall down. mostly the animal in the first stage of milk fever, it will be reluctant to lie down because it will be knowing that once it lie down, it won't get up like that. So it will be reluctant to lie down, and the shifting lameness will be there. The animal will be frequently shifting its hind limb like this. The other differential diagnosis of shifting lameness with salivation is botulism. That is different. Here, frequently the animal will be shifting the hind limbs, and it will be in the standstill, reluctant to move. All these stages of initial stages of milk fever. So in this stage, when you are treating this animal, immediately the animal won't go for recumbency. It will recover well. But most of the time, these type of clinical signs are ignored or may not be noticed by the farmers. They will notice only when the animal is recumbent. Okay. So in the stage 2, the animal goes for recumbency, sternal recumbency. The animal will be dull and depressed, drowsy. So depressed mental status will be there. The head turns towards the flank. Why the animal is turning the head turn towards the flank? Because the muscle weakness will be there. Naturally, the animal become, because the calcium is needed for the muscle tone. So when the animal is going for hypocalcemia, naturally it will turn towards the flank. And you cannot expect all the cases. Suppose the farmer, when in the second stage or third stage, when they are keeping the head like that, again it won't come back. Okay, that you have to take care. You should not keep it as a granted for in all the cases. It should have J shape, like not like that. It will be, if it is undisturbed, it will be like that. Otherwise, when anyone keep the animal head like the ground, it will be the ground itself. It won't get up again. Okay. The temperature will be subnormal in stages. The temperature will be subnormal, and the peripheral extremities will be very much cool. Extremities will be there. The muscle will be very much dry, and the heart rate will be increased. Tachycardia will be there, but the intensity of the heart sound will be reduced, but tachycardia will be there. If you feel the pulse will be very much weak. And when you go near the animal, you can able to appreciate the expiratory grunt as if it is having some respiratory sounds like that. So you will get confused whether there's something got aspirated or not like that. So when you keep your stethoscope near the trachea and the auscultate, you can able to appreciate the loud expiratory grunt very easily. Sometimes nasal discharge may be there. The ruminal stasis or bloat, mild bloat will be there. The bloat is due to the recumbency process, not due to the other thing. Since the animal is in the lateral sternal recumbency, mild bloat will be noticed. And relaxation of the anus will be noticed. Relaxation of anus. Yes, sir. Relaxation of the anus will be noticed, and you can able to appreciate the loss of anal reflex. And the PLR, pupillary light reflex, will be incomplete or absent in the second stage. I know everyone knows to see the PLR, just by using the pen touch, you can able to appreciate the pupillary light reflex. And the pupil will be normal to maximum dilatation. Okay, the PLR will be one of the indication. And in prolapse of the uterus is a common complication of milk fever. That is the complication after that. So during the process of the condition, so it may be a common complications of milk fever. Okay. During the parturition, you will be hearing about uterine inertia. The cervix is fully relaxed and the normal presentation of the fetus and all noticed. When such type of cases are presented to you, when you are going for a vaginal examination, you can able to see the fetus, everything is there, cervix is fully relaxed. Just by giving calcium, then it will become normal. Immediately it will come. That is due to hypocalcemia only. That is due to uterine inertia. Okay, that you have to keep it. So in the second stage, when you are going and attending the second stage, you can appreciate all these type of clinical signs. And you can see this picture. The anal sphincters are relaxed. Relaxed means like a flower, it is relaxed. Okay. So here the pupil is dilated, very much dilated. So these type of animals are going for this third stage of milk fever. So sometimes some veterinarians, they will be getting confused and with acidosis and all, and we'll be putting stomach tube and evaluating for the diagnosis. Of course, we can do, but don't put the stomach tube when the animal is in the comatose state. When the animal is in the coma stage, don't put the stomach tube. It will lead to asphyxia. But keep the animal in the sternal recumbency if it is alert. But acidosis, you should have rumen fluid splashing sound should be there. The dung will be semi-solid in nature, and then you can put the stomach tube and see the content, color and the consistency of the rumen liquor. Why I'm telling is that when the animal is in the lateral recumbency, you should not put the stomach tube. Also, when the animal is in the coma stage, you should not put the stomach tube. See here in this picture, you can able to see the rectal mucosa is protruded out. It's not the relaxation of the anal sphincter. So in the previous picture, we can be able to appreciate the relaxation of the anal sphincter. It is due to the hypocalcemia. Here, the rectal prolapse is noticed. So here you should not mistake it as a hypocalcemia case. This is not a hypocalcemia case. You can see in this picture the head is not visible. Yeah, you can able to see the animal is alert. The animal is alert, not in the comatose stage, but the rectal mucosa is prolapse. This is a clear case of intestinal obstruction. So this type of cases will be presented to you. So you have to evaluate whether the animal is complicated with the peritonitis or not. If it is not complicated with the peritonitis, then you can go for surgical intervention so that you can cure it well, this type of conditions. Okay. So before that, you have to rule out the presence of peritonitis. So in this type of thing, you can able to appreciate the rectal prolapse, not relaxation. In the third stage, the animal will be in the lateral recumbency. Complete flaccidity will be there. You cannot able to hear the heart sounds. When you go auscultate the heart in the cardiac area, you cannot able to appreciate the heart sounds. Sometimes you may be thinking the animal is dead. So that much like coma stage, it will be there. The heart rate will be more than 120, but you cannot able to appreciate the heart sounds. You cannot able to raise the jugular vein. Blood will be very much obvious because of recumbency, because the animal is in the lateral recumbency. So sometimes you may be thinking the animal is almost dead like that because no reflexes are done. So immediately you start the treatment with calcium. So before that, as I already told, you evaluate the differential diagnosis acidosis there or not. So you are doing the rectal examination. The dung is present. Dung is present in the normal consistency. Dung is noticed in the rectum and all. So this is the third stage of milk fever, the lateral recumbency. So the normal calcium level in the blood is 9 to 12 milligram per deciliter. Okay. So the treatment. So suppose you are attending the third stage of milk fever, you may not able to raise the jugular vein. So the treatment is calcium borogluconate. Many of us will be preferring multiple choice. I mean, a mixture of calcium with magnesium and all. So for a typical hypocalcemia milk fever case means the plain calcium borogluconate is more ideal rather than giving the magnesium solution or combined solutions. Calcium borogluconate alone will be more useful for treating milk fever cases very successfully. So you warm the calcium. As a student, you have to understand why we are warm the calcium borogluconate, because already the animal is in the subnormal temperature. We are warming the calcium borogluconate solution to the body temperature. That's all. We are not going to heat the solution. Okay, that we have to keep it in mind. Some people, they mistaken it and they are started heating the calcium borogluconate. That should not be. Only we have to warm it. How to warm? You have to, that calcium borogluconate is available as a bottle, and you have to immerse in the warm water or hot water, and then you can make it gently warm it. You can warm it, and you can able to just by putting a drop in your hand, you can able to feel the warm. Then you can connect it, and also it will enhance the easy absorption of assimilation of calcium in the body immediately, so that the recovery will be very fast. That's why we are warming the calcium borogluconate. Half dose, give half dose IV and the remaining things subcutaneous for better results. And also always prefer plain calcium borogluconate instead of any other combinations. So the intravenous calcium, so just in the third stage when you are doing the treatment, just to put a needle, IV needle, either 18 gauge or 16 gauge needle, and you can able to see a small drop of blood in the needle. So that is the indication the needle is in the vein. So you start connecting the calcium. So you cannot expect the flow of blood as if it is from the normal animal. You cannot expect the flow of blood very freely. Only a drop of blood will be there. Notice it won't come out also. So you connect the calcium. After a few ml, I think after about 50 ml of calcium is administered, the animal become normal. Then you can able to appreciate the rise of the jugular vein and all. So the normal the dose is required dose is 2.2 gram per 100 kg body weight. That you have to keep in mind, 2.2 gram. So for example, 400 kg body weight means it requires around 8 to 10 gram of calcium. Accordingly, you calculate it and you can give IV. Okay, and calcium should be given slowly. That is the normal protocol we have to follow. So you should not give very fast. As a student, you have to learn the basics that calcium should be given very, very slowly. All these things, calcium and potassium, these two things should be very, very, very carefully, and we have to give very slowly. Some practitioners, they used to say, I have given a lot of cases, no problem and all. Just I will give it very fast because we have no time and we have to go for another case. Means it may not be the same in all the cases. So suddenly it may lead to cardiac arrhythmia. So always the safer side, give calcium very slowly. And suppose your diagnosis is wrong, if you are, it is not a case of milk fever, it is not a case of hypercalcemia, suppose it is a case of metritis, mastitis, or acidosis, septicemia, when you give calcium, there will be increased sensitivity of calcium, the animal will collapse immediately. So when you are giving calcium, the animal is not responding to calcium, and collapse means you have to think it is not a case of hypercalcemia. So it could be a case of any other conditions like acidosis or septicemia, metritis, mastitis, or some other conditions. So you have to reevaluate your diagnosis. Okay. And in subcutaneous injection, regarding the subcutaneous injection, you can give it in the neck region. On one side, you can give average around 75 ml at a site. So average about 50 to 125 ml you can be given at a site. And after giving subcutaneous injection, don't massage it. Don't massage it. Just give a hot fermentation. That's enough. Don't massage it, because when you massage it, all the fluids will come down, and the next day, then it will be presented as a biscuit edema. When some other veterinarians come and attend the cases, they will be mistaking the biscuit edema as some other cases like a pericarditis or something else. Okay. So advise the owner not to massage it. After a few hours, recovery will be, the serum level abruptly again it will come down very fastly. So it will lead to cardiac arrhythmia and all. So you have to give it a slow pace of 10 to 15 minutes so that the effectiveness will be noticed. And IV calcium in the system will be only for 6 to 8 hours. So that immediately after the recovery, you have to advise for oral administration of calcium, and subcutaneous administration of calcium will prevent the recurrence. That's why we are giving subcutaneous injection of calcium. So the response to the calcium, suppose when you are diagnosed the case and you are started the treatment and you are connected the calcium, and during the administration of calcium, you have to wait for the response of the calcium. You need not just after 10 minutes, just by seeing after the administration of the calcium, without watching the response of the signs. If you are going, means we may not be in a situation to know whether the animal recovered or not. So what are the response to the calcium? When you are administering calcium, the animal will start showing following signs. The animal will have muscle tremors will be there. The forelimb and hind limb muscle tremors will be there. Fasciculations will be there around the flank and throughout the body. And the muscle will become moist, and the animal will become, the licking behavior will start. Nasal and ocular discharge, sometimes the ocular discharge will be there. And the animal will start urinating, and the animal will defecate. The dung will be voided out as a solid consistency. So these are all the response to the calcium. So immediately the animal will urinate. Okay, see, just to see the this picture, the pupil is very much dilated. The animal is recurrent. They are giving calcium, and the animal is responding after doing the lateral recurrency. During the treatment, the animal is responding to the calcium treatment, and then this animal is recurrent because of the during the time of eastern period. See, the animal started urinating. So during the administration of calcium, the animal started urinating and dung is voided. The animal becomes normal. Fasciculation is noticed. Everything is there. After that, the animal will try to get up on its own, or otherwise we have to assist the lifting. Okay. Or otherwise we have to assist. Most of the animals, they will get up as it is. Otherwise, we have to just make the animal assisted lifting will help the animal to get up. That's all. So during the administration of the calcium, even after 1 bottle of calcium, if the animal is not at all urinating, it's not voiding the dung, means you have to take care. It is not a case of hypercalcemia. Okay. So in this type of cases, we should not give the calcium. So I mean, usually we used to say when there is a rise of temperature, you should not give calcium. In fact, there is no relation between the temperature and the calcium, because the temperature is there, means it is not a case of hypercalcemia. That is the important point that we have to note it, and then you have to re-evaluate the case. That's why we used to say temperature and regarding to the calcium. That is nothing correlated directly. Okay. And when you are wrongly diagnosed the ruminal acidosis case as a milk fever and you are administering the calcium, the animal will collapse. When you are administering calcium in a case of peritonitis, mastitis, or toxemia, the animal won't respond to your calcium. Immediately the animal will collapse. So these things you have to take care and during the clinical examination and diagnosis. So the calcium related arrhythmia, how to identify? The animal will be having bradycardia or tachycardia will be there. So during the fast, when you give the calcium very fast, it may develop arrhythmia. So that you have to make it very slowly, and that immediately you can give atropine sulfate intravenously. So to combat the arrhythmia, if it is having bradycardia. And when you are giving excess calcium, you stop the calcium and you can go for magnesium solutions. And IV administration of fluids that contain phosphates. So you may be using some of the practices, you may be using sodium acid phosphate. You keep it in mind, phosphate solutions. Don't give it simultaneously. Suppose when you are giving both, after learning lot, no, after learning the hypophosphatemia and hypocalcemia, we will be in enthusiasm to treat the animal successfully. So we will give one bottle of calcium. At the same time, we'll be giving calcium, sodium acid phosphate also. So IV, that should not be done. That's all. Okay. So sodium acid phosphate or any phosphate solution should not be combined with the calcium. There should be at least 2 hours gap between that. Okay, if you are giving that. So mostly oral administration will be very much helpful. Only IV administration, you have to avoid it. After 2 hours, you can give if it is needed. Otherwise, oral administration will be useful. I will be telling how when we are using this sodium acid phosphate or any phosphate solutions. Some of the practitioners, they used to say after giving calcium also, the animal again lying down, it got up. Again, the farmer called and they are telling the animal go for recumbency again. So why the relapses occurs? So because it needs more again calcium, and relapses of calcium, you have to think about hypophosphatemia. Okay. So one thing, it requires more calcium. Why relapses occurs? It requires more calcium. Again, you can go for a calcium, and oral administration of calcium can be given. And you have to advise partial milking. You should not advise for complete milking. Complete milking should be avoided so that drainage of calcium will be prevented. And again, you can administer subcutaneous administration of calcium can be given. Oral administration of calcium can be given. And think about hypophosphatemia. That is the most important thing we have to notice, and it is the ignored part in the field conditions. The recurrent hypocalcemia, think about phosphorus level. So you supplement phosphorus, then you will become normal. Simple logic. So for example, this type of case, after treating with the calcium, so after treating with the calcium, the animal become normal. The urination is there, dung and all, everything voided, but the animal is not able to get up. It is still recommends. You have to think about 2 things. One thing, phosphorus level, and another thing, musculoskeletal involvement. After administration of the phosphorus also, the animal is still recommend. You have to think about any peripheral nervous injury or any musculoskeletal disorders. You have to lift the animal manually one time and see the posture so that you can identify all these conditions. Okay. So here you have to supplement phosphorus. So regarding the oral administration of calcium, that many number of commercial preparations are available that you can use it. Never use the gel preparation, which makes the animal aspirated. So whenever they are using the gel preparation, ask them to administer very safe administration in the water rather than, because otherwise we have to educate the farmers. Otherwise they will keep the gel preparation in the mouth, oral cavity, and they will squeeze it. During the time of squeezing, directly it will get aspirated into the respiratory tract, leads to aspiration pneumonia. That we have to take care or educate the farmers. The most ideal forms which are available is the oral calcium, is the calcium chloride and calcium propionate are available. And the differential diagnosis, hypophosphatemia and hypomagnesemia. These things, 2 things we have to keep it in mind. Hypomagnesemia means the animal will be recommended, but it will be having excitation, convulsions will be there, nervous signs will be there. So in magnesium deficiency. In hypophosphatemia, after treating with the calcium, the animal won't get up, but feeding habit, everything will be normal. The animal won't get up. That you have to think about phosphorus level. And the ruminal acidosis, you know how to identify the ruminal acidosis that we have seen in the last class by seeing the fluid splashing sound and diarrhea will be there. You treat it for ruminal acidosis, the animal will recover. All these things are there, but the animal is not getting up. You will be terming as a downer cow syndrome. And you have to identify what is the problem for downer cow, exact etiology for downer cow. See this type of case, this video, it's a clear indication the animal is having respiratory distress, oral respiration is there. It's a hypocalcemia case treated successfully, but after administration of calcium orally, the gel, it got aspirated. So when you are called upon to attend this type of cases, you'll be getting confused which one we have to treat it. So already hypocalcemia has been corrected, but here the respiratory distress is very much obvious. So you have to treat it for aspiration pneumonia. Here you have to treat it for aspiration pneumonia, then only the animal will be stabilized and bring back to the normal. Otherwise, the prognosis will be poor. See here, the mental status of the animal you have to take care. The animal is sleepy, I mean dull and depressed. So the animal is in the sterile recumbency, but the animal is very much in the mental status is very much like as if dull and depressed and sleepy. So you have to think about peritonitis and ruminal acidosis. Okay, two things you have to keep it in mind. The same thing regarding the milk fever in the eaves. I mean, in the last, in the cattle, in cow, most of the time milk fever occurs during the time, means most of the time after parturition. In cow, the milk fever occurs mostly after parturition, that was 36 to 72 hours that we have seen, what are the various stages and all. And in regarding in the lambs, I mean the leaves, most of the hypocalcemia, mostly 99% they occurs during the late gestation period. So that we have to keep it in mind, and you have to go for the clinical examination. Many number of sheep or goat during the last trimester of pregnancy or during the last few weeks of pregnancy, due to the stress condition, they may go for hypocalcemia. They will be brought to the recumbency, either in the external recumbency or lateral recumbency. All the reflexes will be reduced, the pupil will be dilated, and nasal discharge will be noticed. Venous reflex will be absent, pupillary light reflex will be absent, nasal discharge will be there. The pupil will be very much dilated, and you can able to, when you palpate the rumen, there is no fluid passing. If the animal is having fluid passing sound, diarrhea, it is a case of acute acidosis. We can identify very easily just by palpating the rumen. The rumen is normal consistency, duffy in nature, and dung is not voided. See, the dung is pellety in nature, and it is not voided, and it is retained in the rectum itself. The owner will say the animal not urinated, not past the dung. The anal sphincters are relaxed, but the dung are noticed as a pellety in consistency. These are the classical signs of hypercalcemia in eve. Okay, so immediately we can give slowly calcium around 50 ml slow IV. Immediately the animal will become normal. We can see very much obvious. They're happy to see the case immediately. The animal will become all right, and it will stand and it will urinate and the defecation will be there. So after the treatment, they become normal immediately. So only the thing in sheep and goat, recurrence of hypocalcemia occurs frequently. So you have to tell the farmer if it is again going for recumbency, again you have to treat it at the interval of 8 hours interval. And you have to follow the oral administration of calcium syrup without any aspiration, so that you can avoid further recurrences. So these are the things we have to notice in case of sheep and goat. And regarding hypophosphatemia, as already told, already you have treated a case of hypocalcemia and the animal is not able to get up, but feeding habit, everything is normal. The differential diagnosis, only two things, only hypophosphatemia and musculoskeletal disorders. Musculoskeletal disorder, any nervous injury. That I will show you some of the pictures in the last slides so that you can understand it. The phosphorus level, there are two conditions in all the downer cows, all irrespective of any etiology, all the downer cow, the phosphorus level will be very much reduced. So you can supplement phosphorus very boldly. So no contraindications and all. I'll tell you what are the types of phosphorus we can use it successfully. And post-parturition hemoglobinuria is another one condition in the production diseases, which is due to the phosphorus deficiency. The animal will pass coffee colored urine. All other signs will be normal. All other vital signs will be normal. Okay. So the normal phosphorus level is 5.5 to 6 milligram per deciliter. Okay. The body uses only phosphate, PO4. Normally uses the phosphate and phosphates and phosphonates are not useful for the system. So we required phosphate. So if the phosphorus level is not corrected, the animal may remain in the downer cow. So any recurrent, any non-response case to the calcium, you have to think about the phosphorus level. So even after supplementing of the phosphorus, if the animal is not getting up, you have to think about the secondary recumbency. What is the secondary recumbency? You have corrected all the things, calcium, phosphorus, everything you have corrected, but the animal is become recumbent because of the nervous injury. That I will show the pictures so that you can understand. So you have to identify the primary recumbency and secondary recumbency. Primary recumbency due to hypocalcemia or hypophosphatemia. Secondary recumbency means you have corrected all these things, but the animal is not able to get up because of the peripheral neurological complications. Here, there are two types of phosphorus are available. I used to say in all classes repeatedly, but for the students, it will be a new one, so that I am again repeating this organic phosphorus and inorganic phosphorus. There are two types of phosphorus available in the market. So organic phosphorus means due to it contains, you have to see the content. So many of the veterinarians, they used to say, I have diagnosed that case of downer cow successfully, or the post-pathogenic hemoglobinuria successfully, but I have given this phosphorus IV, but no result and all. So you have to see the content. Any case which is many medicines which has been mentioned as butaphosphone or toldim-phos, all these are the organic phosphorus. They are not useful in correcting the hypophosphatemia cases. Okay. Then why we are having this type of phosphorus? These phosphorus are useful for as a metabolic activator. When you are treating a case of any cases, you are supplementing B complex like that, you are giving as a supplements, as a supportive therapy, you can use it. It's as a metabolic activator for many number of coenzymes and the metabolic activator like that. But here we are treating the hypophosphatemia, so we need to supplement the phosphorus, which is easily available. That is sodium acid phosphate or dihydrogen orthophosphate. So these are all the two things available in the market that you can use. That is a monobasic or dibasic can be used, which is very much useful, and successfully it will correct the phosphorus level. So sodium acid phosphate or sodium dihydrogen orthophosphate. So this is a hemoglobinuria. So in the post-pathogenic hemoglobinuria, this is before treatment and this is after treatment. So why the phosphorus post-pathogenic hemoglobinuria occurs? This is due to the dietary phosphorus deficiency. Whenever the animal is reared in the phosphorus, low phosphorus in the soil area, or the dietary phosphorus deficiency, any injection of cold water, or feeding any cruciferous plants, and sometimes in the copper deficit area, the animals are prone for hemoglobinuria. So you have to keep it in mind, irrespective of the calving. So actually in the textbook, it has been mentioned 2 to 4 weeks after calving, but irrespective of the calving, when the animal is reared in the phosphorus deficit soils, we will be getting many number of cases at any time of calving period or parturition or lactation. So here all the vital signs are, everything will be normal. Why hemoglobinuria occurs? Because phosphorus is very much essential for the synthesis of ATPase synthesis, which is very much required for the cellular integrity of RBC. So when phosphorus is reduced, so there will be reduced synthesis of ATPase, that will lead to the lysis of the cellular integrity will be lost. So that will lead to lysis of RBC. So that will comes as a causes hemoglobinuria. This is the concept we are getting hemoglobinuria in case of phosphorus level. So all vital signs will be normal. In temperature, all the vitals will be normal. The feeding habit, everything will be normal, except the animal will be passing hemoglobinuria. So many of us will be mistaking as a babesiosis. So in babesiosis, the animal will be presented with the temperature in the early stage. When it is presented in the delayed cases of babesiosis, the animal will be having subnormal temperature. But here, in the early stage itself, there is no rise in the temperature, no abnormality in the feeding habit, everything will be normal. Only the thing is, animal will be passing hemoglobinuria. You think about phosphorus deficiency. In some cases, you will be seeing gangrene and sloughing of the tip of the tail and the ear or the digits will be noticed. So as an academic part, I have included this video for ideal site of collection of blood for phosphorus evaluation is from the coccygeal vein. From the coccygeal vein. So you can very well easily collect. This is for academic point of view, for just for awareness of the students I have included. Just to lift the tail, you can able to appreciate the coccygeal groove. In that you can able to appreciate the coccygeal vein. Just insert the needle, just insert the 2 ml syringe with the 21 gauge needle just just insert it and withdraw the plunger so that you can able to easily collect the blood from the coccygeal vein. This type of thing sometimes it may be very much useful for restraining the animal also. When you cannot able to approach the animal from the jugular vein and all, you can easily deliver some of the medications for restraining also through the coccygeal. So just for academic purpose, I will given for the students. And regarding the treatment of hypophosphatemia or postphosphatemia hemoglobinuria, sodium acid phosphate, which is available in the powder form, is very much ideal. 60 gram of sodium acid phosphate in 200 ml of normal saline, you can give IV. So don't give the rapid IV. So rapid IV will lead to rapid increase in the rise of phosphorus level, and abruptly it will come down. So slowly, as if you are giving calcium, just to give it slowly. But here phosphorus won't cause any arrhythmia and all. So anyhow, but you give slowly. And again, the 60 gram in 200 ml NS give subcutaneously. So it's ideal protocol, 60 gram of sodium acid phosphate in 200 ml normal saline, give IV. The same dose subcutaneous. This is the standard protocol. We have to keep it in mind wherever we are practicing. Okay. Then for follow-up, you can give oral administration of sodium acid phosphate powder, daily 100 to 150 gram or 120 gram. You can give it, mix it with the drinking water. That will be more ideal. So sodium dihydrogen orthophosphate, like that, many powder are available in the market that you can get it, and from the chemical shop or any other products available that you can use it. So injectable inorganic phosphorus is highly effective. Okay, the sodium acid phosphorus is highly effective for correcting the phosphorus deficiency. So according to the many number of literatures and research and the clinical experience, rather than giving the IV preparation, okay, rather than giving the IV preparation, when you are giving the oral administration of phosphorus, it is highly having effective for more than 24 to 48 hours in the serum level. Okay, at least you can do it for 1 day. 1 day you can give it IV, no problem. You give IV and subcutaneous, and the next day from the follow-up, you can go for the oral administration of sodium acid phosphate, daily 100 to 150 gram orally, so that oral administration will maintain the serum phosphorus level for 24 to 48 hours. That you can keep it in mind. Excellent recovery can be noticed. This is the small secret in the administration of phosphorus. So we can mix it. I used to give as a stomach tube, all these things in the stomach tube, and we used to administer our wards. So hemoglobinuria, the first day you can able to appreciate the signs like this, and see the dark coffee colored urine, and during the recovery phase it will be like this one. So sometimes the owner may be presenting to you with this type of stage. That means it is a mild form of hemoglobinuria. Sometimes you may be appreciating green colored urine also. Sometimes you may be getting, that is also a mild form of hemoglobinuria only. So you supplement phosphorus, it will be okay. Many practitioners, they used to say, used to get a green colored urine like that, but everything is normal. Just to supplement phosphorus 1 or 2 days, it will be okay. So now we have seen about the phosphorus level, how to phosphorus hypophosphatemia, how to administer the phosphorus, and we will see about hypokalemia. The other important one in the production disease is the hypokalemia. I mean, mainly in the regarding the recommended course, hypokalemia. See, already you have treated your cases. So imagine that first slide, a farmer called to attend a case. You have given calcium, and the animal is not getting up. You have given phosphorus also not getting up, but still the animal is sternal recumbency or lateral recumbency. The next differential you have to keep it is hypokalemia. Hypokalemia means low potassium level in the serum. Why? What is the use? What is the etiology? Everyone, we have to keep it in mind. The common thing is that indiscriminate use of isoflurane injection, that we have to keep it in mind. So nowadays, everywhere we are getting lumpy skin disease also, LSD is there, we are getting mastitis. Sometimes when you are treating such a type of cases, the animal will be pregnant. So everyone thinking that since isoflurane is a steroid and it is very safe in pregnancy, we used to administer these type of drugs. But when you are giving it indiscriminately, I mean for more than 1 or 2 days, that will lead to depletion of potassium, and the animal go for hypokalemia and it go for recumbency. That we have to keep it in mind. Instead of we are treating the case, we are complicating the case with isoflurane. So always keep it in mind whenever you are using isoflurane injection. You have to keep it in mind all these things and judicially administer these drugs. And prolonged anorexia during the time of parturition, or after that prolonged anorexia also may lead to low potassium level in the body. And lack of potassium, that means lack of fodder or hay, may lead to the reduced availability of the potassium, and all these things are the etiological causes of hypokalemia. So I'm not going deep about the other things. There is no homeostasis mechanism for potassium. I mean, unless otherwise for calcium, we have parathyroid hormone and calcitonin as for homeostasis. When the calcium level is very less, parathyroid will secrete. When the calcium level is increased, the calcitonin will play a role. Here, the balance between the absorption of potassium from the GI tract and the excretion of the kidney and the salivary glands is the homeostasis. There is no hormonal influence of homeostasis for potassium, that we have to keep it in mind. Okay. So from where potassium is available, transport of potassium is available from the dietary source. It's a passive absorption from the small intestine and active in the colon under the influence of aldosterone. So you have to keep it in mind. Aldosterone plays an important role in the absorption of potassium. So that is for academic point of view. As a clinician, you keep the clinical signs. As a clinician, you keep it in mind the clinical signs. The animal, irrespective of your treatment with the calcium and other treatment and all, the animal is not getting up. Still recommends, either it may be a sternal recurrency or the lateral recurrency, you think about hypokalemia. Okay. So the classical sign is that the animal is unable to lift the neck or lift the head. Because of the muscular weakness, the animal will go, the head turns towards the flank. Even after giving calcium also, the animal, the head turns towards the flank, and the neck muscle is very much weak. And you see the picture here. Even if you lift the head, again it will go down. The animal cannot able to lift the neck because of the muscular weakness, the neck muscle weakness. So in milk, potassium will loss in the milk as 1.4 gram of potassium is lost in 1 liter of milk. Okay. So the animal goes recurrency when the potassium level goes below 3 milliequivalent. So the potassium level, normal potassium level is around 5 milliequivalent. When the potassium level goes below 3 milliequivalent, the animal will go for a recurrency. See here the picture, the first slide I have shown, the classical signs, even after treating with the calcium and all, and the phosphorus and the fluid therapy, everything, still the animal is like that. When you pull the neck, the animal, the neck will be in the straight condition. Again, it will go back. Okay. So the unable to support the weight of the head and commonly hold the heads in the flanks. Again, profound weakness of the lateral cervical muscles is one of the cause for the lateral kink of the neck. See this J-shaped neck, and the animal unable to lift the leg, and it will be pedaling, and it will be in the recurrency. So these type of cases needs supplementation of potassium. See, some cases you can able to see the S-shaped curvature of the cervical. That is also a hypokalemia case. So the animal may be in the sternal recurrency. The neck may be in the S-shape. Some animals may be during walking also, you might have noticed the neck will be S-shaped. That also you have to think about hypokalemia. Okay, see, the neck is S-shaped, and it will be lying in the sternal recurrency. When you lift the head, again it will go down. Okay, these are all the classical signs of hypokalemia. See the curvature of the neck muscle. These are the classical case of hypokalemia. So here the serum potassium level will give as a clue. If you are a field practitioner, and nowadays everywhere we can able to see the serum level. Just collect the serum and you can see the serum level of calcium, phosphorus and potassium in any laboratory, and you will get the idea. Otherwise, by experience, after getting experience in the practice, just by seeing the clinical signs alone, we can able to differentiate if it is a case of hypokalemia. Whenever we are going for IV preparation, IV use of potassium, always is better to go for the serum evaluation of potassium, then go for IV. The another one treatment, that oral administration of potassium, you can give, no problem. So in the treatment aspect, regarding the treatment, two line of treatment is available. One thing is potassium chloride is available as an ampule, 10 ml ampule, and another thing is the oral preparation is available. Liquid form is available, powder form is also available. I will tell you how to administer this potassium IV. You have to judicially use this potassium, and you have to take more care when you are giving potassium IV preparation. And it is always a 10 ml ampule. and the dose is 0.5 to 1 milliequivalent per kg body weight. So you have to keep in mind each ml contains 2 milliequivalent. It is always a 10 ml ampule. Each ml contains 2 milliequivalent. You calculate it accordingly. And suppose you require 100 milliequivalent for an animal means, you have to deliver means, you calculate accordingly and mix it in the normal saline. You should not give directly. You have to mix the potassium chloride. For example, it comes around 100 ml. This ampule 100 ml means you need 10 ampules. So you mix not more than 30 to 40 ml in a NS. You can mix around 30 to 40 ml in a normal saline bottle and give it very, very slowly. And I already told you are giving a calcium very slowly. Rather than that, here potassium, you have to give it very, very, very slowly. Drop it, drop. Even a mild increase in the speed of the solution may lead to sudden development of arrhythmia. The animal will collapse. So you have to take more care when you are giving potassium, giving IV. The dose is 0.5 to 1 milliequivalent per kg body weight, and you can give it slow IV. The flow rate should be very, very, very slow to avoid arrhythmia. That you have to keep. Why I am repeatedly telling this very, very, very slowly means that immediately I have seen many number of cases. Just when you put the increase the speed for just a few minutes, untoward reaction will occur. So you have to give it slowly for the entire NS solution. Some practitioners, for example, you have done everything correct. 500 ml, you have mixed 30 ml or 40 ml, everything is there. 500 up to 400 ml, you have waited normally. Everything is going very drop by drop, and it takes more than 2 hours like that. It has gone. Only 10 to some 50 ml is remaining there. So now we are some work is there, hurry is there. Just you are thinking just 50 ml only, just we can increase the speed like that. If you increase the speed, even in that 50 ml, the arrhythmia will develop. So you have to take care till the last drop of potassium is delivered very slowly. So that you have to keep it in mind when you are administering potassium intravenously. Okay. But the safest thing is oral administration of hypokalemia. I mean, oral treatment of hypokalemia with oral administration of potassium chloride solutions. The human preparations are available as a Potchlor, and many preparations are available. And you can use this type of liquid preparation. And also potassium chloride is also available as a powder form also, that you can give 100 to 120 gram orally. So oral administration of potassium is also gives the same effect only, no problem. That is no doubt in that. Okay. So oral administration also will give the same effect. Only the thing is having some delayed effect. When you give IV, you can able to notice the result within 6 hours. When you are giving orally, you can able to appreciate the result only after 24 hours. We can wait it, but it is very safe to administer, and the excellent result will be there after administration of potassium in acute hypokalemia. If you are having a facility of using the blood, the serum evaluation of the parameters, and you are seeing the blood values, and you are correct giving IV and followed by oral, excellent result will be there. Next day the animal will become normal and it will stand as if it is having full strength. The first day the animal may be recommend like lethargic weakness. The next day the animal will stand very strong. So that much very classical result you can get from this treatment of hypokalemia. So you plan according to your time availability and your availability of the medicines, whether you can go for IV preparation or oral preparation. For IV, my advice that way, oral administration is safe and best. And you are going for IV preparation in acute cases, you can go for IV preparation. But before IV preparation, it is a mandatory to see the serum potassium level. Without seeing the potassium serum level, if you are going for IV treatment, the animal will develop arrhythmia. For example, suppose you are thinking the case wrongly, imagine it is a case of hypokalemia, but the serum level is exactly normal, 5 milliequivalent. Just because of any other condition like peritonitis or septicemia, the animal is lethargic and keeping the head like that. When you are giving potassium just by 20 ml or 30 ml fluids itself, the animal will collapse, because you have to take care. So when you are going for IV preparation, the serum evaluation of potassium is a must, mandatory to plan your treatment. Oral administration is very safe, that you can start your treatment by just by seeing the clinical signs itself, you can start the treatment, no problem. It is very safe. See the lateral kink of the animal, and so all these animals, you are treated with like hypocalcemia, hypophosphatemia, or hypokalemia, whatever the thing. Some animals will have energy and immediately they will get up, automatically they will get up. Delayed cases, I mean the animals which are recommended for more than 8 hours and all, they need support. They need support to lift it. So with the help of the pole and all, with the help of the people, you just lift the animal. When the animal is trying to get up, just lift the animal and keep it stand, and just by the paddy straw or some other whatever the cloth and all, just rub the limbs, forelimb and the hind limb, so that blood circulation will be maintained. The animal physiotherapy can be done like all these things, and you can apply some rubifacients or hot water fermentation can be given. All these things can be given so that the animal will feel comfortable and become normal. Okay, just when the animal is trying to get up, it needs support. So when manpower is not available, this type of slings are also available, that you can put the animal in the sling so that you can keep the animal, and the animal will start walking within few hours. For example, when you are lifting the animal like this, it will show some typical postures that animal won't stand immediately. That requires this type of sling. So either it is a homemade sling or any other ready-made sling available, you have to put the animal in the sling. Then only the animal will go for management. Okay, it won't stand immediately with its own support. See, this type of animal we are presenting to you. So differential diagnosis already. This in this case, will you give calcium? No, because here you can able to appreciate the nystagmus. So nystagmus is there. The animal is in the lateral recumbency, and the respiratory distress is there. And this is a case of septicemia. And in such a cases, there is no need of giving calcium. So clinical examination plays an important role to identify the case. So in this case, the animal is in the lateral recumbency. Already you are treated with the calcium but not responded. Now you can go for potassium level and you can try it. So the differential diagnosis, hypokalemia or any other peritonitis, septicemia. Like that you have to, just by seeing the clinical signs, you treat it accordingly. These are the normal reference values that you can see it later. The calcium, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, glucose, and AST. AST is the important aspartate transferase. AST is the important prognostic indicator in case of Downer course. So elevated level of AST is a poor prognostic level. Okay. So how to differentiate this hypocalcemia and hypophosphatemia, magnesemia, hypokalemia, all these things I have explained then and there. So whenever you are treating the case of hypocalcemia, the animal will recover immediately and it will get up. So after the treating with the calcium, if the animal is not getting up, you think about phosphorus level is low. That is hypophosphatemia. You are supplement phosphorus. Hypomagnesemia means the animal will be getting excited. Nervous signs with the recumbency will be there. That you have to keep it in mind. Hypokalemia, that I already told, all the above treatment you have done, but the animal is still sternal recumbency or the lateral recumbency, unable to get up. You think about potassium level. All these three things only you have to manipulate: calcium, phosphorus, and potassium. These three things you can use it judicially so that you can successfully make up the cases to standing posture. So for example, after treating the milk fever case, lateral recumbency, the animal comes for standing, prefers the standing posture. Instead of that, the animal is still remaining the sternal recumbency. You concentrate on these things, hypophosphatemia and hypokalemia. These two things you have to concentrate and you can treat it accordingly. So hypocalcemia, you are treating with the calcium, borogluconate, half dose IV, half dose subcutaneous. Hypophosphatemia, injectable, which contains injectable. Many number of commercial preparations are available. In that injectable, you have to see if it is mentioned as sodium acid phosphate, means you can use it as an injectable also, and followed by oral administration. Then hypokalemia, administration of potassium chloride. Very simple. Only the three drugs you are going to use judicially. By clinical examination, you are identifying the case and you are successfully treating the case. And after treating all these cases, I am telling, after treating all the above conditions, still the animal is recumbency. See, you are going under a case, you are already given a case of calcium, you are given phosphorus, and you are given potassium also. Okay, still the animal is in this type of posture. Just by seeing the posture, you can able to come to a conclusion. See this picture, the animal is alert, normal, feeding habit, everything normal. If you think the feeding habit, everything is normal, but the animal is unable to get up, means it is a clear case of musculoskeletal involvement. So you can list out all the below conditions and whatever the sites coming, all these things you keep it in mind and treat it accordingly. Okay. See the posture, the animal itself is showing the clinical signs to you. See my left hind limb is affected, like that it is telling. See the outward extension of the hind limb, it's a clear indication of stifle dislocation or hip dislocation. That you have to keep your hand in the hip joint and the stifle joint and do the clinical examination and find out what happened. This is a clear case of hip dislocation. Okay. So this cannot be treated with calcium. This cannot be treated with potassium. This cannot be treated with phosphorus. So hip dislocation, you tell the prognosis accordingly, or you have to manage it accordingly. So this is a case of hip dislocation. So here there is no need of giving calcium and all. Why I am telling that? In this case, there is no need of calcium. Okay. So now you can able to easily differentiate this type of cases. See, the outward extension of the hind limb is there. Right hind limb is affected. See here, the stifle dislocation is there. I will show the video how to identify this stifle dislocation. So now you can keep it in your mind when you go and attend this type of cases. Will you give calcium these type of cases? No, you won't take calcium. You won't give potassium also. You won't give phosphorus also. Phosphorus you can give it as a supplement, no problem. But you won't give calcium and all. Okay. So it's a clear case of musculoskeletal involvement. And it's a case of stifle dislocation. See the outward angle of hind limb. This also clear indication. The left hind limb is extended outward. So you think about stifle injury. Left stifle injury is that. So this is also a clear case. The right stifle injury. Because of the right stifle injury, the animal is keeping the right hind limb abducted. See? Here also, because of the right stifle injury, the animal is keeping the right hind limb, the lateral deviation of the right hind. I am giving more number of pictures so that you can understand and keep it in mind easily. Just watch this video. You have to keep your hand. You have to keep your hand in the stifle joint. You have to keep your hand in the stifle joint and just flex the limb like that. So you can able to appreciate the crepitation sound will be there. So in the stifle joint, crepitation will be there. See, another important point is that in normal animal, there won't be any 90-degree angle deviation of the limb. So in this animal, with one hand, I can easily able to move the hind limb like this. So the 90-degree angle deviation of the hind limb is a clear indication of stifle dislocation. Okay. And you have to keep the hand in the stifle and also another hand in the hip joint. And you have to verify where the crepitation is exactly noticed. In normal animal, there won't be any crepitation. Okay. In normal animal, without any injury, there won't be any crepitation in the stifle injury. According to my experience, many number of veterinarians, since they lack this point, they couldn't able to identify the stifle injury, and they will get confused because why the animal is recommended still after treating with the calcium or phosphorus or potassium like that. See, you keep your hand like that and lift it like this. This is the clear case of stifle dislocation. So if the animal is not having a 90-degree angle deviation, it is coming up to like this, some 20-degree, 30-degree only normal. That is okay. But when you are doing like this, when there is crepitation is there, when crepitation is there in the stifle, it is a clear case of stifle injury. So that cow needs rest. You have to keep the animal in the sand pit and manage it accordingly. Rest is there. Otherwise, you keep the animal in the sling. You can keep the animal in the sling so that the animal will recover very normal. See this? See my hand where I have placed my hand. One hand this stifle joint and another hand in the hip joint. And see whether any crepitation is available. You can able to feel the crepitation. If you are able to feel the crepitation in the hip joint is affected. If you are able to appreciate the crepitation, I mean crepitation means the sound, the cracking sound in the stifle, that is due to stifle injury. You do the rectal examination. Sometimes you may able to see the condyle, femur head. You can able to. That is hip dislocation. Okay. So these two things are the important clinical sign in the after the treating with the hypercalcemia or hypokalemia when the animal is not able to getting up. You have to do this type of clinical examination and you have to come to a conclusion. Why I am telling many of the animals without the knowledge of the farmer, after treating for hypercalcemia, the animal would have got up. Suddenly it would have slipped in the concrete floor or in the cattle shed itself. It may not be noticed. When the farmer comes again and he will be seeing the animal is recommended. Because of the slippery floor, the animal got slipped and it got injury in the stifle or a hip dislocation or stifle injury. Because of the pain, the animal won't get up. So just by keeping the hand like this and doing the physical examination like this, we can easily come to a conclusion and diagnosis very easily. Okay. So when you are coming across after the treatment of hypocalcemia or immediately after calving, when the animal is in the sitting posture, like both the hind limbs are both the hind limbs extended towards the elbow like this, both the hind limbs extended towards the elbow like this. It's a clear case of obturator nerve paralysis. Okay, it's a clear case of obturator nerve paralysis, and the prolonged duration of attending a dystocia or a massive size of the fetus leads to the compression of the obturator nerve, and that will lead to this type of recurrency. This type of animal needs management. You have to keep the animal in this sand pit, and you have to go for put the animal in the sling and put the cobbles between the both the hind limbs and treat it with thiamine and supplements and anti-inflammatory drugs, symptomatic treatment and physiotherapy, so that it will take a long time for the recovery. So whenever you are appreciating this type of clinical signs like both hind limbs extended towards the elbow, it is a clear case of obturator nerve paralysis. So this is obturator nerve paralysis. And here it's a frog-like sitting, frog sitting posture. Both the hind limbs are extended outwards and unable to abduct. It's unable to abduct means again unable to bring it back towards its body. That is because of the paralysis of the adductor muscle. So the animals are having like a frog, it will sit like a frog sitting posture. Okay. See, the obturator nerve paralysis animal, when you are putting the animal in the sling, it will stand like this. See the wide base, that is a clear indication. Whenever you put the animal in the sling, both the hind limbs are extended outward. That is a clear indication the obturator nerve paralysis occurred. So normally both the hind limbs should be very near like this. Both the hind limbs should be very near. If it is going away like this, it is a clear case of obturator nerve paralysis. You can put the hobble in both the limbs and treat it symptomatically. See, here you can able to appreciate the swelling, a massive swelling in the thigh muscle. This is due to the gastrocnemius muscle rupture. So without clinical examination, if you go on treating this type of cases with the calcium, any number of bottles, potassium, phosphorus, no response will be there. Just to make the animal lifting, just to lift it one time, you can able to see this classical posture. See this posture? When you make the animal lift, the hog joint will touch the ground. So no normal animal, the hog joint will touch the ground. If the hog joint is touching the ground, it is a clear case of gastrocnemius muscle rupture. So hog joint resting on the ground, it's a clear case of gastrocnemius muscle rupture. So just lift the animal. If you are not getting any clue or for a diagnosis, you are getting confused, just make the animal lift once, so you can see the different type of postures and you can able to appreciate the clinical signs. This is a clear case of gastrocnemius muscle rupture. See, this is also the animal is resting the hog on the ground. It's a gastrocnemius muscle rupture. So all these type of cases cannot be this rupture cannot be repaired. See, some animals after getting up, so after getting up, the animal may be having knuckling. See, the knuckling of this hind limb, knuckling of the hind limb in the fetlock region will be there. So this is a case of tibial nerve paralysis. The partial knuckling of the fetlock is a case of indication of tibial nerve paralysis. And see here, the hog joint is dropped downwards. So normally the hog joint will be like this, at parallel to the ground. When it is dropped like this, dropped hog, I mean, see, you can able to see the hog joint. When it is dropped, it is a clear case of a sciatic nerve injury. So sciatic nerve injury with the tibial nerve injury. So this type of cases, these are all the musculoskeletal disorders. You have to give the animal the sling. You have to give the vitamin supplements like B1, B12, B6, and sling support. Then only you can able to make the animal normal. Okay. Then you can give supportives like a phosphorus and all. You can give supportives. So the recommended animal, when you are keeping the animal in the sling, it will be like this. Both the hind limbs are knuckling. Both the fetlocks are knuckling. So this is, see the hog joint, it is dropping down, but it is not touching the ground. That you have to take care. So perpendicularly like this. Perpendicularly, the limb is coming like this, and the hog joint resting on the ground means gastrocnemius muscle rupture. See, the hog joint is dropped. There is no straightening of the hog joint. So here it is a sciatic nerve injury, and knuckling of both the fetlock is due to peroneal nerve paralysis. There we have seen partial knuckling of fetlock, tibial nerve injury, complete knuckling of the fetlock, peroneal nerve injury. Okay, all these things only by sling support and management you can make the animal normal, bring back the animal to the normal. And see in this animal, Here, these are all not direct. I'm telling why I'm putting all these pictures. These are all not direct case of Downer curve. All these are complicated case of milk fever. Cases which are treated for milk fever, then they are not getting up. So we'll be getting confused and we'll be going on treating with the calcium. There is no need. That is the point I'm telling you. Lift the animal and see the posture and treat it accordingly for various neurological problems. Here, the forelimb is affected. The animal is cannot able to bear the weight in the forelimb. This is due to radial nerve paralysis. The elbow joints dropped. Dropped hock, sciatic nerve. Dropped elbow, radial nerve paralysis. See, during the recumbency, the animal is keeping the hand, forelimb as an extended part. This is due to radial nerve paralysis. This is also due to radial nerve paralysis. The animal is in the recumbency, the extended forelimb. The animal will prefer the posture like this. When you make the animal stand, it will stand like this. It cannot able to bear the weight on the forelimb. This is due to radial nerve paralysis. So why this animal need not to have any need of calcium or potassium like that. It needs sling support. That's what I want to insist to our students. So this is also the tibial nerve injury. See, partial knuckling of the pet leg is a tibial nerve injury. So this is, since it is a first class, you may be getting some comprehensive knowledge regarding the hypocalcemia, hypophosphatemia, hypokalemia, and the complications of the secondary recumbency. So that again, when you are attending a full session of a Downer curve syndrome class, you will get a full clarification. And when you are going to attend a case in the field, definitely I hope you will can diagnose many number of cases very easily. That is, I can give you a guarantee. Okay, see in this sling, the animal is put in the sling, but many of the practitioners, they used to say, sir, immediately the animal is not, I have put the animal in the sling, but the animal is not able to bear weight. It won't bear weight immediately. So you have to wait for 8 hours or 1 day or 2 days. Let it be. Keep the animal like this in the sling for 4 hours or 6 hours, then bring it down, then again lift it and keep it like this. Then only the animal become back to the normal. Once it is in the secondary recumbency like this, once when you put it in the sling, it won't bear the weight immediately within 5 minutes. So this type of postures will be there, slow response will be there. So in the meantime, we have to treat it accordingly symptomatically. See, complete knuckling of the pet leg is indication of peroneal nerve paralysis. This can be very easily managed, and very heavy animals, everything normal, feeding habit, everything normal. Only the thing, because of knuckling of pet leg, the animal can't able to get up. If you give the animal the sling and treat it accordingly and symptomatic, it will become normal. Okay. So this another one I want to conclude. After treating all these things, the animal is not at all taking feed. The animal is not passing dung, means in the Downer curve, just to rule out peritonitis. I want to insist again and again in all the classes. When the animal is treated and everything is okay, but animal is not responded, not voiding dung, you just do the synthesis, abdominal synthesis. Just put a 16 gauge or 18 gauge needle from the xiphoid 10 centimeters caudal anywhere, and you can able to see the clear colorless fluid gushing out from the abdominal cavity. It's a clear case of peritonitis. This type of cases, it won't respond to any type of treatment, but it will be present as a Downer, and it will make confusion for you whether it is hypercalcemia or whatever may be like that. So when the animal is not at all passing the dung, distended abdomen, increase in the heart rate, you just think about peritonitis and rule out peritonitis by doing abdominal synthesis. Okay. So with this, I conclude this session, and thank you very much. And we should be always be proud to be a veterinarian in our profession, because we are handling with a lot of cases with the limited availability, and we depend mostly on the physical examination, and always we have to be proud of a veterinarian. And I hope you can understand the basic things of production disease related to the recumbency like hypocalcemia, hypophosphatemia, and hypokalemia, and various secondary complications of various postures you have seen. In future, in the next classes and all in future, if you attend the Downer curve syndrome alone, the same thing will come again, and you will get a clarity for identification of various cases. Okay. Then when you are going and attending the case, definitely I hope you can very well successfully the treatment of hypocalcemia, hypokalemia, and phosphorus deficiency, and you can identify various number of musculoskeletal disorders, and you will be telling me back, I have diagnosed this type of obturator nerve paralysis, I have diagnosed peroneal nerve paralysis, and I will be feeling happy that our students are doing the best in the field conditions. And I thank you very much, one and all. I thank Dr. Pradeep Sharma sir and Caris Laboratories for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for delivering such a wonderful and informative webinar. I'm getting the response from the students that they have got a very good amount of the knowledge. Even the field veterinarians are also giving a very good response, and we were having a very good number of participants also. Sir, could you please take the question answer session?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Please, sir.
If the animal is having cardiac arrhythmia and it shows signs of recurrency, how to approach the case? Cardiac arrhythmia, when you are giving calcium, suppose any untoward reaction comes, means like that, when the animal is having some unwanted like cough or some abnormal elevation of heart rate and all is there, immediately stop calcium and you can give atropine sulfate slowly IV. That will be correct. That will correct the cardiac arrhythmia. Okay. How to prepare veterinary medicine for JRF exam? Very good. Our sir will help you to get the JRF examination syllabus and all. So syllabus is available. The syllabus is available for JRF examination. You can follow that and you can write the examination. And after getting cleared of that, according to the rank, you will be getting the required department which you are in interest. Then how estrogen affects during the estrus period, there will be delayed absorption of calcium will be there. Not in all the cases. In some cases, the mild hypocalcemia, estrogen will act as a trigger, will lead to reduced absorption of calcium. That will lead to recurrency, and the animal will show signs of hypocalcemia. So not in all the cases. Some cases in the estrus period, abnormal elevation of estrogen that will lead to reduced absorption of calcium. How to check if there is any calcium toxicity in animal and what treatment we should? Yes, for example, only by serum calcium level we can say the abnormal calcium level is more and all. And the other thing, why I'm telling that, you need not to go for a more number of bottles of calcium, 3 bottles, 4 bottles like that. So just now one practitioner has completed that case, and again we came and again attended that the same case. And in that, when you feel that overdosage of calcium is there, stop the administration of calcium and give magnesium. That's all.
Sir, could you please stop sharing your presentation? Few of the participants, they are asking for it. Please stop your sharing your presentation. They want to interact directly with you, face to face, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all right, sir.
Is it available?
Yeah, that's all right, sir, now. Yeah.
Which one, sir?
No, I mean, please stop sharing your presentation now, sir. Stop sharing your presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all right, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the treatment for septicemia? In septicemia, we will be concentrating regarding differential diagnosis include whether the animal is having peritonitis, metritis, mastitis or not. If it is having a mastitis, you treat it accordingly with antibiotic and fluid therapy. In case of metritis, you treat it for metritis. So septicemia, mostly you will be managing the cases with the fluid therapy. Instead of giving calcium and all, you will be managing the cases with the fluid therapy and the flunixin at 1.1 to 2.2 milligram per kg body weight. When will hypophosphatemia occur? So hypophosphatemia, as already told, in all the downer cows, there will be reduced, there will be low availability of the phosphorus level. So irrespective of anything, in all the downers, you can use phosphorus. You can use it, very much useful. And also hypophosphatemia, it will occur more in some of the areas in which the phosphorus level is low in the soil. As I already told, there are many number of areas in, for example, here in our area, many number of identified areas. From there, we used to get more number of hemoglobinuria cases because of low phosphorus level like that. availability of phosphorus in the soil will be very much less, and also during the recumbency also the phosphorus will be very much reduced. Can we mix normal saline and calcium? Yes, of course we can. Ramakrishnan sir asked, we can mix normal saline and calcium. No harm in that. Another one line of treatment, another one line of therapeutic regimen the practices they used to follow is that somebody used to say that you should not mix the calcium with the normal saline like that. It's not like that. Due to the increased sensitivity in the conditioning of the calcium, instead of giving it a calcium directly in some conditions, in doubtful conditions, many practices they used to mix it with the normal saline so that they can avoid untoward reactions. So it will be very safe. So you can mix normal saline and the calcium. No problem. Sir, can we give calcium in initial stages of margination? One pharmacist in my locality treated ruminal acidosis with the Mifex, and after some hours, whitish fluid come from the vagina. For example, I'm able to get the question whether we can give calcium. You'll be getting confused. Suppose in the case of ruminal acidosis, many words the practitioners they will get confused whether we have to treat the ruminal acidosis or hypocalcemia. Because of ruminal acidosis, the animal is recumbency, acute ruminal acidosis. So first correct the ruminal acidosis. Then after the recovery phases, then you can go for administration of calcium so that you can save the animal instead of giving calcium as a primary. So in some cases, you will be treating the acidosis case with the sodium bicarbonate and normal saline intravenously. The animal become normal, but feed intake is very much reduced and might become, I mean the lateral recumbency, the animal becomes sternal recumbency, but the feed intake is not there. In such a condition, the next day you can give calcium, no problem. In another way also we can treat it. You treat the ruminal acidosis with sodium bicarbonate and normal saline and the fluid therapy and all. You treat it the ruminal acidosis, then you can give calcium if it is required. You can give subcutaneous as a safe method so that you can avoid untoward reaction. Instead of giving IV, you can give subcutaneous so that you can slowly make the calcium available to the animal. So you can make untoward reactions in the ruminal acidosis. Like that, you can manage it. According to the situation, we can manage like that. What would be the status of mucous membrane hypercalcemia? It's a normal one or congested or whatever maybe. It may not be a tail or any other thing. It's a normal one. How will we diagnose a case of prepartum downer cow? Yes, it's a very big, as already I have done one webinar on a prepartum downer cows. Mainly, there are some conditions because of debility, negative energy balance, hydrolantize, like that. So many conditions are there in the prepartum downer cow. So most of the cases we are getting the field conditions mainly because of negative energy balance, because they are not giving any concentration to the animals in the full-term pregnancy. By around 6 months or 8 months, the animal will lie down and the animal feeding habit, everything will be normal, but the animal won't get up. So these type of cases used to get. And according to the clinical signs, we can diagnose. Peritonitis is also one of the common cause in the prepartum downer cows, or hydrolantize, negative energy balance. That we can diagnose according to the clinical condition. For example, in hydrolantize, bilateral abdominal distension will be there. So that by you can do the rectal examination and you can see you cannot able to feel the fetus. So hydrolantize. Peritonitis, reduced quantity of the tongue, increase in the heart rate, bilateral abdominal distension, abdominal synthesis will confirm with the peritonitis. Negative energy balance, feeding habit, everything will be normal, but the animal cannot able to get up. By these things, we can able to diagnose the prepartum downers. Another one, fatty liver syndrome is also one of the important condition in case of prepartum downers. So now yesterday I found one case with no defecation for 5 days and not eating rectum osseous. Yeah, rectum, empty rectum. Empty rectum means the differential diagnosis is only 2 things. That's why in all the webinars I used to insist the abdominal synthesis, because as our veterinarians has to repeatedly see this abdominal synthesis, they have to get adapted to this abdominal synthesis. 2 things I want to insist. One thing, the stomach tube intubation, putting the stomach tube and collecting the rumen content. Number 2, abdominal synthesis. These 2 things are very much essential for the field veterinarians. We have to well verse in that. Once you started doing these 2 things, all the diagnosis will be very much easy, very, very easy. You can diagnose every case very easily. Only the thing you have to get confident with these 2 procedures. Empty rectum means only the 2 conditions. One thing, intestinal obstruction. Either it could be a physical obstruction or functional obstruction. Physical obstruction means any phytobazos will be there in the intestine, or functional obstruction means intersusception. Intersusception, either it may be in the cecal dilatation or in the jejunum or ileum, whatever may be. Intersusception or physical obstruction, one thing. Number two, paralytic ileus due to peritonitis. So these two things we have to keep it in mind. And first, what I advise you, you do the abdominocentesis. You do the abdominocentesis and rule out peritonitis, and do the rectal examination and try to see any mass is there or not. If it is a case of intestinal obstruction, it has to go for a surgical procedure. If I use calcium, phosphorus, and potassium preparation in case of hypocalcemia, what is the effects shown by such patients? If you use calcium in case of hypocalcemia, immediately the animal will recover. Defecation will be there, urination will be there, and become normal from the previous clinical. If it is a lateral, it will come to the sternal. If it is the sternal, it will stand. So even after giving calcium, the animal in the lateral recumbency come to the sternal recumbency, means it is a response to the calcium, but it is not getting up, means you supplement phosphorus. Okay. And assisted lifting may required so that to avoid any musculoskeletal involvement. So just lift the animal and see whether there is any musculoskeletal involvement is there or not, then you treat it accordingly. Potassium preparations, I already told, when the neck muscle is very weak, animal is not able to get up, you think about hypokalemia and you administer oral administration of potassium so that it will respond to your treatment the next day, so that you can plan your treatment accordingly. So in future, our veterinarians, you need not depend on the calcium alone for the downer. Downer is not only due to hypercalcemia. There are so many things are there. I have not included the other etiology of downer cows in this session because it's a very big entity, like a foreign body syndrome, peritonitis, this one, anemia. So many causes of downer cow syndromes are there. If we insist everything in a 1 hour, we will get confused. So that we are going step by step. First, we learn this thing, then the other occasions we'll be learning the other things, so that in some of the few classes in comprehensive manner, you may able to acquire more knowledge and you will very easily diagnose this type of cases. Is it safe to use of Mifex in pregnant? Yes, of course. When you used to ask this question, whether I can use calcium in the pregnant animal, whether I can use magnesium solution, if it is relevant, if it is warranted in that type of cases, you can use. Just by giving calcium in a pregnant animal, it won't get aborted. Okay. So if it is needed in that animal, you can use it, no problem. So can we use OTC that turned black in color due to mostly when there is any discoloration, we won't use it. So please tell me the treatment of hypokalemia in 400 kg cow in detail in field conditions. Yeah, I already told. I told the dose 0.5 milliequivalent per kg body weight. You get the potassium chloride syrup. See the dose, each 5 ml, 15 ml contains how much. You calculate accordingly. 400 into 0.5. You calculate how much milliequivalent it is coming. 400 into 0.5. Like that you calculate. For example, it is coming around 300 milliequivalent, means you see administer 300 milliequivalent. You see how much availability in the 15 ml and give it orally, drench it orally. That's enough without aspiration. Or otherwise, you give potassium chloride powder. You give 100 gram or 150 gram in drinking water. Mix it in drinking water and drench it without aspiration. So that will give you a very good effect in case of field conditions. Whatever the cases are done, everything is the field only. Okay. I already told Om Shiv Prakash how to proceed acidosis compared with milk fever. In acidosis first, treat the acidosis first with the normal saline and the sodium bicarbonate IV, and then you treat the milk fever. So milk fever means only during the recently calved animal you will be getting both the things, because the farmers, they used to give more amount of concentrate, the animal become acidosis, be having ruminal acidosis. Simultaneously they will be having milk fever also. So first correct the acidosis, and simultaneously after that you can go for the correcting the milk fever. For the safer side, I already told you can give calcium subcutaneously so that you can avoid untoward reactions. I'm asking for IV use. Which one, sir? Dr. TC Jangir. I'm asking for IV use. IV use. Which question I couldn't? OTC. I think you are asking the question regarding the OTC. Can we mix multivitamin with OTC? So usually my advice is that I used to tell the students, don't mix any medicines or anything with ringer lactate. You can mix all other medications with normal saline. Don't mix any medications with the ringer lactate. That is one ideal protocol we used to follow. And multivitamins, don't mix it with OTC. You mix the multivitamin with normal saline. That is one separate sachet. OTC with normal saline, again one separate NS bottle. Don't mix multivitamin and OTC in a single NS and don't give. So, and also don't give OTC direct IV. Many of us, they used to say, I am not getting any reaction like that. Don't follow that. Always give OTC with the normal saline. Don't give direct IV. I hope Dr. Jangir got the point. Differential diagnosis between hypomagnesemia, bovine ketosis, and hypocalcemia. It's very simple, sir. Bovine. That's why I'm telling hypomagnesemia and bovine ketosis will be a confusion one in the when you are attending the field condition, because both the things will be having nervous signs. Nervous signs will be there, so that we will be treating symptomatically with both my magnesium solutions and the dextrose solution. So we will be treating with both the hypertonic dextrose solution and magnesium solution. We will be administering, and the response to that will be seen. Suppose if you are having a gadget, a small glucometer is there, that will have a very good differential diagnosis. Apart from the clinical signs, if you have a glucometer, just to put a drop of blood and see the glucometer, touch it, you can able to see the glucose level. If the glucose level is very much less than like less than 40, it is a clear case of ketosis. So normal blood glucose level around 40 to 50 will be that. If it is a very low glucose level, it will be a case of ketosis. And you can able to you can use the ketostic strip is there, beta hydroxybutyric strip is there. By that you can differentiate if you want to have a confirmed diagnosis. Otherwise, mostly it will be interrelated and it will be getting confusion one by hypomagnesemia and bovine ketosis. So most of the practices they used to treat it combined with magnesium solution and hypertonic dextrose. Okay. If you want to clarify, just you can take the blood sample and immediately you can see on the spot the glucose level, so that you can narrow down and identify. Books for clinical diagnosis are our main Bible of the veterinary medicine is the veterinary medicine by Constable. That is the Bible for veterinary medicine. And there are many other textbooks are available for the students. That is the Bible, and practitioners also. That is the Bible for veterinary medicine. But then previously we used to say the Blood and Anderson when we are studying undergraduate. That later became Radosits. Now the author is Constable, veterinary medicine, textbooks of veterinary medicine by Constable. And many other textbooks are available for the practice also. And another one textbook is available that is also very much good one. Rayburn's textbook on Rayburn's large animal practice. That is also very much interested regarding the field practice. He has written all the things as if we are seeing in the field conditions. It's very interesting to read that. Sir, DNS is safe to mix. I think Ramakrishnan sir is asking the same regarding the calcium simultaneously. Always calcium can be mixed with the normal saline. Of course, I don't have any experience regarding the DNS. I have advised only on calcium can be mixed with the NS. I think it can be mixed. In some cases, there will be occurrence of prepartum prolapse after calcium administration. How to prevent this? In some cases, there will be occurrence of prepartum prolapse. Prepartum prolapse, as already discussed, it's due to low calcium availability, calcium level in the blood. That will lead to prolapse. And recurrence may be prevented by management. The recurrent, the prepartum prolapse, there are many other reasons apart from calcium also that we have to manage by keeping the animal just by keeping the hindquarters in the elevated portion. If it is a recurrent cases, then you can go for a retention suture and all, and then you can manage it. Only at the time of parturition only it will be related to the calcium, and it is not related to the calcium when it is around 8 months or like that. Only during the time of parturition, I mean during the inertia or like that only calcium is directly related. How many possibilities of lumbar paralysis in case of goat? Lumbar paralysis, Dr. Pankaj, mainly you have to concentrate regarding this one, this Kumbri. So cerebrospinal pneumothoracic, and you have to treat it with ivermectin and B1 beta or B6. So excellent results will be noticed. And if it is in a young one, you have to think about enzytic ataxia, that is due to copper deficiency. So any lumbar paralysis in young one, you have to think about copper, enzytic ataxia. In adult one, you think about Kumri. So treatment of prepartum hypocalcemia, already you have diagnosed it as a prepartum hypocalcemia. The treatment is obvious, calcium only. So no issues. You can treat it. It is very safe. 10 to 15 days before parturition. The animal went for hypocalcemia. You give calcium, no harm in that. It won't harm any fetus or anything. As I already told, many people used to ask the doubt whether we can give calcium in the pregnant animal or not. If it is needed, you can give, no problem. If it is a case of hypercalcemia, you can give, no problem. It will give good results. What is the dose rate of Mifex in goat for? Again, I want to insist this point. Mifex means don't say that you tell that a magnesium solution or calcium solution like that. Mifex contains predominantly the magnesium solution. So in hypocalcemia, you have to give calcium borogluconate. That is the more important thing you have to keep it in mind. So in case of calcium borogluconate, you can give 50 ml slow IV. That's 50 ml. Also in magnesium is 50 ml. Mostly calcium hypocalcemia in case of Eves during the last trimester of pregnancy. That too within 1 week before parturition. Can we give dextrose after calcium therapy? Yes, many already I have put on point because I skipped that because I don't want to confuse in the students in the earlier practice itself. Because many veterinarians, they have the practice of after giving calcium, they used to give dextrose also. But actually calcium itself is having that combination of dextrose is there. So there is no need of giving extra again dextrose. Actually, there is no need of giving dextrose. Okay. Another one point I want to insist you can see that just you can see this point so that you can understand it according to the condition you can use. See. So I think that point is not available, but I'm telling usually when there is low the hypocalcemia is there, naturally the dextrose will be, the glucose level will be elevated. So when you start treating with calcium, again the dextrose level will come back to the normal. So that there is no need of giving extra dextrose. So you can ignore it. Okay. Mifex contain dextrose also. So can we give? Yes, we can give. Only the solution is exceptional for giving subcutaneous is the calcium solutions. That already everyone knows, that is obvious one. So we can give calcium subcutaneous because we need slow absorption. So dextrose alone cannot be given. Only the solution which is given is exempted is the Mifex or calcium solution which can be given subcutaneous. So for example, you are giving dextrose, hypertonic dextrose, means that we cannot give 500 ml or 1 liter subcutaneous. No, the absorption won't be there. It will be delayed. That will lead to localized irritation and all. Here we are using that within the limited availability that I have already mentioned, of not more than 75 ml per site. It won't harm that. So we are giving calcium and magnesium subcutaneous for slow absorption that we can use now. I hope I have attended all the questions.
Oh, okay, so that's great. No problem. If the participants have any other question, they can drop a mail to Rajan, and Rajan can communicate it to you. And please then reply their queries accordingly. Okay, sir.
Yes,
so thank you very much, sir, for a wonderful talk. And now on behalf of this college, I would like to thank Caras Laboratory Private Limited and yourself for this wonderful talk. We are enlightened by your blessings. And I am also thankful to all the participants who joined and participated in this live event. My sincere thanks to the sponsors, Caras Lab and their team, Dr. Arun, Managing Director, Mr. Jitendra, Director, Mr. Lalit, Vice President, and Dr. Rajan. Dr. Rajan is alumni of alumni of our college, and he has taken lots of interest in organizing this webinar. So once again, sir, thank you very much. And I would also like to thank Dean, College of Veterinary Animal Sciences, and the organizing committee in the successful organization of this webinar. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our Dean, VCRI Salem, for giving me the opportunity to present this webinar. I also thank Dr. Pradeep Sharma ji and also the CARES laboratories for their continuous effort in updating the knowledge for the students and the practitioners of Himachal Pradesh and Haryana. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Have a nice day.